what is your message to the team now that these guys are just not, they're not going to be available for a little bit?
Yeah, the message is that we got to control what we can and stay in the moment. Let's look at the one game right in front of us and let's put our best effort on the ice. I think if we play a team game and we compete hard and there's collective effort on both sides of the puck, I believe we have what it takes to be in every game, give ourselves a chance. So, obviously we're a better team when those guys are in our lineup. I'm stating the obvious there, but it's going to provide opportunities for others to step up and play a more significant role, get more ice time, and it's an opportunity for people to make an impact.
Gagula and Morrow were getting reps on the power play today. Is that you kind of see it going that way, or maybe you go back to 5 forwards, or is that what it's going to look like?
I would imagine that's probably what it's going to look like to start, and that's why we got him reps there today. But obviously, a lot of it's going to depend on performance and how the group does. If they have success, and we'd be more inclined to stay with it. If they don't, then we're just going to feel through that process and figure out where to go from there.
What did you like about Scott Morrow when he was kind of quarterbacking that power play unit?
Well, we think Scotty has the ability to see the ice pretty well, and he can pass the puck. And he's pretty good at getting pucks through from the blue line, which I think is an important skill offensively for defensemen, whether it be 5-on-5 or the power play. Just your ability to change your angle, get a puck through, give our guys an opportunity for a next play, whether it be a deflection, a rebound. Those broken plays are hard to defend, and so I think Scotty does a pretty good job at just with his ability to get those pucks through. And in today's game with the layers of shot blockers and things of that nature, that's there's a lot of shots that don't get through from the blue line, and he's shown an ability to get pucks through.
And just with Gagula and if Miller plays tomorrow, and if they're part of that top unit, just Vincent was telling me maybe the biggest thing is just the communication and being able to get some game reps together to kind of get everyone on the same page. Is that the biggest factor you think for them?
Well, obviously, when you're putting new people in spots, there's a process that you go through, building chemistry, predictability for one another, and learning each other's tendencies, and whether it be on the power play or 5-on-5 for that matter. So, we've had a lot of moving parts just because of out of necessity, just based on the injuries that we've endured here for the first half of the season to some key guys. And so, there's been a lot of different looks on that top power play unit, and it seems like every time we get it going pretty good, somebody goes down on it, and we've got to figure it out. That's part of it. So we're gonna figure it out.
What is it about Gavrikov's skill set, what he does, that lets you believe that he could be a fit there? Because obviously you're putting him there. So what about his game that could fit with those?
Yeah, I just think his simplicity. I think his simplicity, and I'll be honest with you, I've been pleasantly surprised with his offensive instincts. We knew we were getting a real good defender when we signed him. I'd be lying to you if I said I anticipated him making the impact offensively that he has. And I don't just mean because he scored some goals for us. I think he has the ability to transition pucks, go tape to tape, make outlet passes. He has pretty good poise along the offensive blue line. He doesn't just throw pucks away. He's got a higher panic threshold than most back there. I have been, pleasantly surprised with the impact that he's had offensively on our group. And as I said, we felt fairly confident that he was going to make a significant impact on the defensive side. But he's made a significant impact on the offensive side also. I think he's had a terrific year for us.
You talked about the injuries that you've had to significant personnel the first half. Over the course of the season, how do you think your group has handled those injuries?
Yeah, it's a good question. What criteria do you utilize to assess it? Is it a win-loss record? Because if that's the case, you'd like to think we'd win more games. So it's not an easy. I don't think it's an easy question to answer based on, depending on what you define as the criteria when you assess something. So what I do think is that, we've put a lot of players in positions that might be out of their comfort zone. Some of them have handled it pretty well, you know. Others it's been a little bit of a mixed bag, but we're probably not unique in that regard. I think a lot of teams, when they go through injuries the way we have, it's there are challenges there.
Mike
Buffalo's been hot lately. They've gone way up in the standings. From your scouting, what have they been doing well that makes them tough to play against, especially in this last little stretch?
Well, they've always been a team that that's been dynamic offensively. They play they play a highly skilled game. They've got a lot of talent. I think most recently they've been more difficult to play against. And as I think I've said this on many of occasion, just my own experience of being through it and on so many different occasions with different teams. I've been associated with a lot of teams that have a lot of dynamic offensive capability, but you can't score your way to success in this league. That's been my experience. You have to have the ability to keep the puck out of your net. You've got to be able and willing to check and to defend. And we use the phrase being hard to play against. That means a lot of things. You got to manage the puck. Can't turn it over. Can't give easy offense to opponents. If you give easy offense, I don't care how good you are offensively. You get in a track meet, anything can happen. So I think Buffalo most recently has done a better job there.
With Tage Thompson specifically, I'm curious, because you put him on the Olympic team and he wasn't on the Four Nations team. Is that being hard to play against, being able to check, is that an area you've seen improvement in his game?
Yes. Yes, and I think that's a big reason why he's on the Olympic team. He's a really talented hockey player, as we all know. That's obvious. All the players that are in that tournament are really talented hockey players. It takes more. And I think his game continues to evolve. He continues to develop. I think he has a more mature game.
Mike, if I can ask you an Olympic-related question, do you, now that the roster's picked, do you, like Clayton Keller was here the other day to see Tage tomorrow, do you spend time, even though you're coaching the Rangers against these guys, do you spend time talking to them? Will you meet with these guys like you got?
Yeah, so it's a great question. When we were leading up to the Four Nations tournament, we spent a lot of time with guys. Not so much in this Olympic experience. Part of it was because of the roster, and there was a lot of discussion around what the roster was going to ultimately become. I anticipate having conversations here moving forward.
Like, did you talk to them?
I did not have a chance, but
Do you plan to try to talk to
yes,
Tage tomorrow?
I plan on trying to talk to a lot of guys.
When you have someone like Quick able to step in here for Igor, just what's your level of comfort in that, but also where's your level of belief in his ability to handle the full workload as you're talking?
Well, we have ultimate faith in Quickie. He's an elite goaltender. He's a fierce competitor. His body of work in the league speaks for itself. Look what he's done for our team this year. Every time he goes in, he gives us timely save after timely save. So I've got a ton of confidence in his ability to help us.
When you talk to those guys, what's the impact of those conversations? What do you want to get? Like, if you meet with Tage tomorrow, like, what do you want to talk about with him? What do you want to get?
Yeah, so a lot of it is just getting to know guys, give them an opportunity to talk to me and get to know me, and that was, as I said, I had a lot of discussions leading up through that Four Nations experience. It was a little bit easier because that roster was named in October or whatever it was, early November, right? So there was a lot more time from that standpoint to reach out and speak to guys. And this one's a little bit different just because of how late the roster's been named. But a lot of it for me is just giving me an opportunity to speak to them and get to know them a little bit, and they can do the same with me. When we get closer to the experience, the coaching staff has put a game plan together on how we're going to communicate with these guys and leading up to it, and there'll be time when we actually get there also. I believe we've got 4 days before our first game, which will give us, I think, a real good opportunity to spend some time face-to-face with guys, define roles, define expectations, build an identity, all of those things. That's all part of it. And so we've talked at length and built a game plan or an action plan, I guess, on how we're going to approach that stuff.